Good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of Sleepless in Seattle. My name is Alex. Today's date is May 31st in the year 2026. So, we are currently continuing to experience these geomagnetic storms. I'm looking at where we are right now, this second. Okay, it's just after 1 o'clock, and I'm just now looking. We have had a certain amount of activity a couple of hours ago, and that actually preceded something that happened that I'm going to talk to you about. So there's a couple of things that I'm going to discuss as I review my day on the 31st day of May. I've now been here 30 days, and I'm talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly. So thank you for tuning in. Leave a comment and subscribe. I have multiple YouTube channels, including a Substack called solarwars.substack.com, where I talk about advanced political, geopolitical topics. But I'm not necessarily going to bring those to Sleepless in Salida. I'm going to try to bring out more of the yogi, the spiritualist, the meditator, that sort of thing. So that's kind of the context of this. That I'm a person that exposes things, corruption, and I've been doing it for a long time. And there are people in this world that will work hard to shut me down and to force me out. Hopefully the audio has improved with what we have going on right now. I'm wearing a headset, but wearing it around my neck, so hopefully we have better audio. And so this morning started with me taking my garbage responsibly to a Safeway dumpster, but now it's locked. I've been using it, but now it's locked. But it's also June, so maybe it's because of the season. And this woman was walking up, elderly, and there's something about some women that are elderly now, not all, but some, that are completely going to the dark side with cruelty and being mean to men. And I would say certain types of men rather than just all types of men. I tell you that on a regular basis. And so she's like, that's a way to not pay your garbage bill. And like, I'm wearing medallions, I'm wearing bracelets, I have dark skin, I do obviously circular motion exercises. And so they are anti-spiritual here. They're classes. And so I'm kind of starting the story out with how it started. She's instigated, and of course I fire back for a couple of minutes how I really feel about bullies like her. Then a redhead Viking and his girlfriend come up that I've seen around, and then they're thinking that I'm just attacking or jumping someone rather than defending myself. Okay, so I tell them off, and they keep scurrying off, but the guy came back to me later at the park where I'm trying to make my breakfast. Oh, you're that guy who harassed that woman. That's the mind control. That's the hallucination. That's the demonic element. That's the was that they have going on. So I fire back again about how I feel about his demographic, not caring about people like me, bullying me. Okay, and I'm standing up for myself to him and his girlfriend, who's probably enjoying watching her boyfriend mess with some other guy. So they don't care that someone's just defending themselves against someone else. So now I'm firing back against him, and then they leave the park. And so I go back to just doing my own thing. And then this other guy who's in his car starts clapping at me to mock me and then bait me into argument with him. Then he starts making some joke about me making meatballs when I'm about to make my steak dinner or something that I purchased. And so I had some things to say with him, like, sorry, I don't smoke crack. I work out and pray, as he rides off on his bike like the Wicked Witch of the East or the West. And so now this older woman is profiling me, pointing at me at the other side of the park wearing a purple shirt. And then here comes the cop. He already knows my name. It's a brief conversation. But in that conversation, the topic changes, and then I get other details and confirmation regarding crimes that are taking place in this vicinity involving the guy that was in the podcast yesterday. So stay tuned for that. Because for all I know, he could be going back to prison. Because he beat a guy half to death. Because the guy was facing charges. There is... well, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. But there's a reason why people like that shouldn't be on my newsletter. And there's a reason intuitively that I know that in certain circumstances, it actually is okay to record. Because they're coming into my space, I'm recording myself, and I'm documenting it, but I also get the intuitive hit to not record certain people, ever, and to give them a benefit of the doubt. But when certain people have certain red flags, you might want to do it just to be safe. It is your right, actually, in reality, to record things that happen around you, especially if there's a history of people setting you up, which is why I got to get a body cam. So let's talk about the story. After that, something positive happened. So let's talk about that. I want to thank those of you that are tuning in today. I hope you're enjoying the audio. I hope you understand what's going on with me and that I'm taking this quite well and that I care about you. I don't know you, but I want to know you soon. And I want to believe that some of you are going to reach out. I know I look better with that hat in some cases, but I wear the hat, which is an EMF hat for spiritual protection, and I follow the guidance of Sufi realities. I do not watch him for weeks on end, actually. Why? Because I think at times I engage in certain sinful behavior that he doesn't approve of. And maybe he burns my demons. The point is unless I'm actually walking a certain path, it's hard for me to even listen to him. Because it's very, very real what he's talking about. So I walked and found another place to dump the garbage. Okay. And I ended up talking to a female who was homeless for I don't know how long. It felt like 3 hours, but it could have just been 2 hours. And we were by the bathroom there, by the park, by the river. And then she told me that she was the one that a certain person was talking to. You know, when he came up to me and I was not wanting to talk that day, and I was going off. Some male walked by with a whole bunch of like facial makeup and a real goth saying the vibes are real bad about the Gen Z and the generation that's following it that's in this town, and just in general. So we're having a conversation that was very peaceful, and she had a deep spirituality to her. She lived in Odessa in West Texas. She was familiar with a lot of things that I was talking about. There was never any argument. When I was apologizing to her for sounding intense, she said there was nothing wrong with you. But she kept talking about James in jail. And like she gave me all the signals, dude, I'm with somebody. And I'm not even necessarily trying, but she went on and talked about being stalked by that guy. Who? The guy who was in my podcast. And then told me that he went into somebody's tent, a guy named Ted, and beat the living daylights out of him a day or two ago. Weren't we just doing the podcast yesterday? He just beat a guy up. And then he's playing all spiritual. He got involved in somebody else's business. Now, what she said, and I'm going to relay to you everything that was said because I wasn't allowed to record. By the way, is this mic on? Yeah, it is on. She said that there was an orgy with 4 adults and there was a child in the bathroom here in Salida, Colorado, in a hotel room. And she said, according to her understanding, that Ted continued the affair with the wife of his friend, somebody named Andrew. And then as a result of that, Ted's wife, according to her, made a false claim that he did something to that little girl. She said it was false. The cop, though, told me it's real. And so it's real that happened, and it's real that Adam went into his tent after he already had charges just to beat him up. Furthermore, before I hit record, Adam was sharing the story that there's a grandfather who's watching over a little girl, and as the little girl kept looking at me, sending signals that she wanted somebody to save her. And I felt very awkward. She had a little Deadpool, little cartoon icon. I want to give her the Deadpool comic book that A-Man gave me. That would look bad. So even though I want to be a teacher, even though I want to help her, I can't. What is she doing in the car living with Grandpa? Well, I'll tell you. According to Adam, the mom wanted to have sex with people inside the house. And so she kicked the girl out. Now, there might be more to the story. I mean, look at the sources that I'm getting. But we look at also the story of Salida. and the girl giving the guy drugs and the guy dying. A lot of people in town don't even know about that. So there's different things that are going on. What she was telling me this morning, although she didn't know about the OD, was that she has been dealing with thefts, a lot of meth heads, and was basically describing that there's a lot of them here that have robbed her. There was description of other things, perhaps violence and fights, but she did describe the situation with Adam as one in which she was trying to get away from him. And then when I walked by the two, it was her opportunity to escape. I'm sitting there kind of like, yelling. I'm going off about, people judging me. And then he walks by and he's like, hey, you're smiling. I'm like, dude, don't tell me to take a deep breath. I'm tired of hearing that. The cop said it too. Everybody that does that whole take a deep breath is programmed by the Matrix to judge me for having emotions. And the cop said, hey, Alex, you doing okay otherwise? Tomorrow, when I talk with the counselor in person for the first time, and for the first time in a long time, I'm seeing someone in person, I'm going to try to get into everything with her, with most likely this white woman who's been trained by modern medicine. But I do want real-world advice on how you deal with somebody that we might label, certainly those of you in the media, a journalist, that is, might label somebody as schizophrenic if they're talking about seeing things that aren't there, hearing things that aren't there, and I feel really abandoned by this world for not caring what happened to me in Texas. Okay, but this whole thing with schizophrenia, people hallucinating, let's look back. Do I need to post it again? Gypsy Fox was being accused of breaking into cars by unstable people. Okay, there's clearly some sort of a demonic element to it, and maybe there are certain things that we do in this world that break down our shielding. I know I drank the other day, but I'm not going to beat myself over that, but I am always going to look at that. Coffee consumption and the other behaviors that may weaken the shield. Because I'm so strong, because of solar flares, I can maybe break a few rules, not be perfect, yet still be high energy. But yet I have this interference going on. So, what is going on clearly was that Viking couple was picking on me because I stood up for myself. And then because I stood up for myself to them, another woman stepped in, called the cops, and then the people at the park are staring at me. Finally, there was one female there that looked like she was doing gymnastics. And as I was doing my podcast today, I talked about how I just want a woman who does gymnastics and martial arts and jiu-jitsu, so I don't have to think about this stuff anymore. I would most certainly be honored to take a break from this way of life, to find someone, or to join someone, or to help someone, or to be somebody's dad. But there's nobody in this world that's recruited me for that mission. I'll save my deeper commentary for a blog. You don't need to hear and be exposed to everything that I have to say. Furthermore, I went to the Methodist church and I listened to a female pastor. You can listen to her sermon, which may be uploaded to Substack. So you understand that I will listen to a woman and I will go in to that environment, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to be back. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to even talk to me if I try to reveal that I have intelligence. And finally, because there was, it was a series of threes, there were a number of things that I did today that were positive. So I talked to the woman for 2 or 3 hours and gave her just a lot of positive male energy. Then I went to the female church where there's the female reverend. I am saddened that there's just so much focus on LGBT and no focus on ending the wars and caring about ethnic men. There's none of that. There's the misuse of the word inclusive. And there'll be businesses that are allergic to me that literally have the anti-racist handbook out for sale for $2. The anti-racist handbook. They can be allergic to me while selling the anti-racist handbook. The other thing that I did that was spiritual before the whole park incident was I went to Riverside Park and they were doing the Crystal Bowl, what I call the gong bell. By the way, we need more gong bell. And I basically sat down, grounded, meditated. Initially, the girl doing it was glaring at me like I was a threat. Till I sat down, started taking things off, except my shirt, bracelets, got barefoot, and then started doing things from yoga, circular motion, no boxing or striking, but deep breathing, and then looking around and seeing that these people were totally allergic to that behavior. They were walking around Riverside Park. The lady told me something that's very, very true, and I'll leave you with this. This town's full of zombies, both the ones that are in the houses as well as the houseless. My name is Alex. It is May 31st, 2026. If you'd like to know me or be friends, leave a comment down below and I can email you. Goodbye.